And please welcome Judge Reddick.
Thank you very much, Andrea, for such a warm, wonderful welcome. Thank you to all of you for inviting me out. This has been quite an experience for me. It's like a year ago I was head down fighting one case at a time, and then December 2010 my life changed forever. And I will say that I never really set out to become a judge. I knew when I went to law school, the only thing I wanted to do was to help people. And I was very focused on helping a specific segment of the population, and that was poor people, people who couldn't afford good counsel. And it didn't matter to me if it was doing criminal work or civil work. I just knew that I wanted to help people who couldn't afford good counsel. So with that in mind, I went to law school. And I had gone to Northwestern, was fortunate enough to win a scholarship to be able to study at Northwestern. And that was a really big deal for my family. I actually was born to a single mother of 5 children, and money was pretty scarce in our home. And I remember one day I had come home, I had taken the preliminary scholarship aptitude test and had gotten great results and was looking forward to college. And I went to my mother and I said, "Look, Mom, I got this notice from Northwestern, and they said they can make it so that it costs the same for me to go to Northwestern as it would to go to the local university." And my mother said, "Well, that's great, but I don't have money for even the local university, so good luck with that." So, and she really wished me well and wanted me to do well, but she was really not in a position to help me. So when Northwestern came through, that really opened my world. That was an exciting, amazing time for me. Going to school, I thought I was going into foreign affairs and diplomatics. I had studied German in Akron, Ohio, which is where I was born and raised. It had a strong German population. So I was exposed to a foreign language in elementary school. By the time I finished school, I was able to test out of my language requirement for college because I had had so much German, which, again, my mother hated my speaking German and wondered often why I wasn't speaking French. But it was my senior year at Northwestern when I took a sociology class. I'll never forget this professor. I just remember his last name, Sampson. And he talked to me about the struggles of being an African-American male in society when he, a tenured professor at an institution like Northwestern, was routinely pulled over by the police, roused out of his car, made to put his hands on the car, searched, and really treated substandard and as a second-class citizen. And this was, without giving away too much of my age, let's just say in the 80s. And I don't know what happened, it just struck a chord in me that suddenly the goals I had dealing with, foreign affairs and diplomatic, what is that anyway? I really needed to be focused and to help people here right in on my own doorstep. And that's really what fired me up. And I applied to law school with that single objective. I only wanted to help people who were really the downtrodden in our society. So that's what I did. I returned to Ohio to attend law school. Again, scholarship money, by the grace, is what made that happen. And thereafter, I knew I had to come back to Chicago because I had enjoyed being here so much when I was in school. So that's what I did. I applied to legal assistance, public defender's office, and I'm so glad the public defender's office came knocking. And that's where I spent my entire career. I worked in the areas of juvenile court early on, paternity, some civil law. I represented adults all over the city doing criminal misdemeanor work. Thereafter, I moved into a division that would really define my career and my time as a public defender. I moved into the post-conviction unit. And there, I had a couple of the most amazing cases I've ever had the fortune to be involved in. One was a case that involved a man who was accused of a double homicide. He was accused with 7 other individuals that they had chased and shot at and killed a young boy who was allegedly in a rival gang, and another bullet, or a bullet from one of the guns, inadvertently struck and killed a security officer. Only the person I represented that day, he was not there. He regularly kept company with these individuals, but he was not there on this particular day. Ultimately, he was convicted. And he was convicted on the testimony of a single eyewitness who was 12 at the time. But that kid, shortly after the trial, went to one of the lawyers of the other co-defendants and said, you know, I didn't see what I claimed I saw. I lied. And so after dropping that bomb and even giving a sworn statement, that kid disappeared. My client was convicted along with all the others. The minimum sentence at that time was life in prison and maximum death. You all now know there's no longer death penalty in Illinois. But with that sentence, he was going to spend the rest of his life in prison. So I was assigned this case as a post-conviction matter. Post-convictions just mean you had your trial, lost it. You had the appeal, you lost it. You weren't really given an opportunity to go beyond that direct appeal. And so now, after all the trial, the appeal process is over, are there any remaining constitutional violations that should bring the case back? So, with this, I set to work on this case. I actually found that kid who was 12. He had moved to Minnesota, had wound up convicted of murder himself, and was serving a very significant sentence. So I just began talking with this kid over the telephone, bit by bit, and was able to collect information to support his original recantation, the statement where he said, I really didn't see what I think I saw. So through a lot of legal machinations, it's really just hard work. We got the case back into court. We had that kid brought from Minnesota to Illinois on an interstate compact in handcuffs. And I basically moved into the county jail for that weekend, prepared his testimony. We presented it at the hearing and the judge granted a new trial. He believed the kid had testified falsely. And I wish that was the end of the story. It was not. Ultimately, on retrial, and I'll just cut to the chase, we came in second place, which means we lost. And that was after another person who had been involved in the shooting was offered a deal to testify. His deal was, if you come in and testify in this specific way and implicate this guy, we're going to just dismiss away your convictions. We're going to let you plead guilty to a single murder. We'll give you the maximum penalty, but we'll give you day-to-day good time credit for all the time you served in. Essentially, he went from life in prison to serving roughly 15 years to be released. Well, who wouldn't testify against someone for that deal, right? And he, incidentally, was serving his sentence in the super maximum facility because his behavior was pretty bad, even within the prison. So, the bottom line is, my client was reconvicted. I was deeply disturbed by the events that happened, so I asked to keep the case on appeal. I'm not an appellate lawyer. I had never done an appeal in my life, but I knew what had happened there was wrong. So, I was granted permission to keep that appeal. I wrote the appeal. I was shot down by the appellate court, no argument granted, but I got some really key language. That language was essentially, this is an issue of first impression. So with that language, I of course took it to the Illinois Supreme Court, and I feel very embarrassed now to talk with Justice Tice in the audience. I argued that case in March of 2009, and again, I'd like to tell you, I met with success. It was a 5-4 decision against me. 5-4, one justice, and there was a strongly worded dissent. And with that, there are Supreme Court clinics that are held in law schools all over the country. And one particular law school was pretty impressed by the issues in the case and the decision, and so they contacted us. And that law school was Yale. Yale Law School Supreme Court Clinic contacted us and said, hey, we really like your issue. Would you mind if we got on board and helped you file it in the United States Supreme Court? I'm like, absolutely. Yale ultimately was not able to do it, but Stanford was. And Jeff Fisher, who was well known for the Crawford versus Washington case that has really operated to be a watershed decision in criminal law, got on board, became lead counsel, and we took this case to the United States Supreme Court. What do you think? This was the strikeout. 2 days before I was sworn in, I received word that our suit had been denied. I'm very sad to say, but here's a couple of good things resulted from that. I think that one case, because of the length of time and the energy and all of what resulted from it, brought me to the attention of certain people. And among those people, key people on the Illinois Supreme Court, other judges, other people who practice in the field, and I was strongly encouraged to submit my name to be considered for a judicial vacancy. I did follow suit. I will say initially, somewhat reluctantly, it was the best decision I could have made. Because after being subjected to a lengthy and very thorough evaluation process by an association of 10 bar associations, as well as the Chicago Bar Association, I was found qualified and recommended by all. And the Illinois State Bar Association, in fact, found me highly qualified, and the Cook County Bar Association found me highly recommended. And a little time thereafter, I was invited to fill a vacancy, a judicial vacancy. So that's how and why I stand before you now as Judge Reddick in the circuit court. But it doesn't stop there. Now I have to run to keep this amazing job, which in this really brief period I've been able to really see just how very important having informed judges who care, who really care, who are going to listen, who will take the time and really expend the energy to do justice one case at a time. I realize all the more how very important that is and what an incredible calling that is to be able to be in this position. And so now I, of course, have to run to keep that position. So my being here today is really to just give you an opportunity to learn some things about me, to ask questions, and concluding, I really would like so very much to have your support as I fight this journey on to try to remain a circuit court judge. Thank you.
So what do you